Welcome everybody to the webinar. And thank you so much for joining us for the second installment of this law firm growth series. We're going to tap into some real insights that you can take away and apply to your firm right now, and just help reframe how your firm may be approaching marketing and your lead generation. So if you have any questions at any point while we're speaking, please feel free to use the Q&A button to leave your questions for us. It's just at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we'll try to save some time at the end to answer your questions. And if we can't get to them during this call, we'll email you directly and answer them. And we'll, of course, email this recording to everybody who signed up for the session as well. So let's get started here. To the new folks who are joining us, I'm Nina Lee, Senior Marketing Manager here at PracticePanther. We're a law practice management software that helps attorneys and law firms work more efficiently through automation and an all-in-one, easy-to-use system. So having a holistic bird's eye view of your firm is so important so you can understand how you're generating clients. We make it as simple as possible to manage your firm so you can focus on what you do best, which is practicing law. And like we mentioned before in part one, we help you create systems within your firm to run on autopilot. And I'm joined here with Bert again. Thank you for being here for part 2 of 3. I'm really excited to hear your marketing know-how, but before that, can you introduce yourself to the new folks?
Yeah, so I think I have a flyby right now. Maybe y'all can hear it, I can't. But,
I can.
but yeah, my name is Bert Diener. I'm a lawyer. I helped start a software company that basically works with law firms. We put in some software into firms and we help measure how they basically convert leads to hires. And so we've worked with a few hundred firms beforehand. So we've kind of gathered up a really large database and seeing what the trends are for several different practice areas. And I also happen to have a law firm that focuses on immigration and injury. And we're opening our 8th office in LA here this next month. So we have a pretty high volume practice. So not only do I study law firms, I have my own laboratory to see what's working and what's not working.
Amazing. And I'm just so interested to hear what we can take away from today's session. So how about you get us started here with just a recap of what we talked about last time and the new goodies that you have for us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Nina. So what I offer everybody, my goal for today for everybody who's listening is to kind of offer a different perspective, right? I would like to show you kind of a journey of what we see law firms do on a consistent basis and kind of how they approach things a little bit differently. I have 3 primary stages: the getting perspective stage, the building the system stage, and then really the leverage stage. And in terms of just kind of starting off and kind of just giving you a little bit more context, perspective, the first stage, which we talked about. If you would go to the next slide, if you don't mind. Great. If the perspective, the first stage, really kind of comes down to is really 2 core principles. The first one is what are we actually doing in our law firms, especially if we want to create enough clients at a consistent flow of clients that are increasing and predictable, that it allows us to, let's say, generate enough money to replace ourselves. Some people are interested in freedom. Some people are just interested in more certainty in terms of how much money they're making. And I think that, unfortunately, there's the old way of doing things, whereas we were told in law school that all we had to do is be great lawyers and everything would just work out just fine. And then now there's the new way. And the new way is that, you just can't take just referrals. Especially if you want to have some cushion and kind of try to build some type of bulletproof system. We've got to be planning and making things happen on our initiative, not just taking what we can get. So one of the first points that I brought up is that there's this book called The Parable of the Pipeline. And it just tells like this business parable that in essence, the goal is not to have a job. The goal is to have a pipeline that continually produces what you want. And we kind of offer just a distinction to that we think you need to have measurements. You need to be able to measure how everything is working so you know where to fix it. The second component, the second main thought concept of stage 1 is that we want to get it down to numbers. And so for client generation, we have 5 numbers we want to look at: leads, qualified, which means those who can actually hire you; sets, shows, and hires. Now you can go a little bit further and look at average case value, but based on those 5 numbers, if you see at the bottom of the slide, there's a little Excel spreadsheet. And under the current percentages, we want to know how efficient you are. And if we do it right, what happens is under the increase column, we can multiply this by like subtle improvements, small incremental improvements, but they multiply off of one another. So this whole introduction to this whole series we put out there is how to basically grow grow your firm, or at least make an additional $1 million without spending more money on marketing. It was a lesson I learned in the first 2 years of applying this concept. I made an additional $1 million and did not raise my marketing ad spend. So that was in 2016 that I did it. First year was 2015, and then 2016, I broke the additional $1 million mark. So over the years, I've had an opportunity to take this same concept and start plugging it into firms, or at least advising people how to do it, and studying how it worked and the successes. And the key that I want to just leave everybody here before we get into the second stage is that all of us at times feel lost. We feel like there's too many things that we can do, that too many things to focus on. We're just kind of, we're almost stuck. And we have to get really clear with where we're at, where we're going, and why we're really doing it. Now, I would say that, some people will have some type of altruistic notion in terms of I practice law just to help people, but I want to take it a little bit more basic than that. We all have law firms and we practice law in large part to take care of ourselves and our families. And building a system, a machine, if you will, that is more efficient at taking care of ourselves and our family and gives us a lot more options is something that I've personally been able to do. And I've been able to work with a lot of other people. I'm just here to share with you insights. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to basically sell you and try to convince you that you likely can do more with what you already have. We just need to focus in the right place. All right. So the next slide, please, ma'am. Fantastic. So I want to take you to a short little story to kind of provide context here. We as lawyers, we're in law school, in order to teach a lesson, they always gave us a case. And in that case, through some type of unique circumstances, we were able to kind of take the meat of the lesson, apply it with that story, and hopefully it's stuck in our brains. So I'm hoping that this one's going to stick in your brain. So in the mid-1800s, there's a gentleman by the name of John Patterson. He graduated from Dartmouth. He was from Ohio, and he graduated. He moved back to Ohio to a mining town. He opened a general store because he figured, hey, look, there's no other store here. And he found he had a steady stream of clients coming in, but after some period of time, he realized, I'm not making any money. And he was frustrated. It's like, what's going on? I mean, I have business. I think I'm doing everything right. And what he was slowly coming to grips with is that at this very same time, employee theft was a big issue. Receipts were kept in an open drawer. They call it a till box, right? We had no video cameras. We really didn't have much supervision unless they sat there and they watched over them, much like how our law firms are run. Now, Patterson came across an ad in a newspaper. It was an ad for the first cash register. And when he saw it, he thought, this is it. So he bought 2 cash registers. And when he put those cash registers in his firm, in the course of 6 months, he made the equivalent today of $100,000 in profit. He went and bought that company and it became NCR, okay? Now, the point that I want to kind of bring out to everybody there is that for the most part, he was counting and he had a systematic way of counting. It's true the money was locked in the box, so that, and the receipts were locked in the box then. But most of us, this lesson that was learned 150 years ago, it kind of occurred to me that in law firms, by and large, how we get paid generally is not measured. We don't have a cash register. So if you go to the next slide, ma'am. The system stage for us, in terms of my offer to you all, is that we all get it that we all want an easier way to do things. But what we're really trying to do, remember, if we're trying to build this pipeline with this pipeline of clients in there, we have to be able to count. And in this connection from how we get our clients to them actually paying us, there's a string of events. And generally, they're not connected. In all firms, and in fact, a lot of businesses, this is something that when I learned the power of it, it was probably the single biggest thing that I ever did in terms of expanding in law firms and trying to think, how can you grow system as, let's just say predictably and consistently. And the blind spot for me was my phones. And people say, oh no, get better on your phones, get better on the phones. And I'm going to be specific in what I mean on that. There's two types of phone calls. We have inbound phone calls and outbound phone calls. Still, most law firms in this new reality, although we're virtual, people are still picking up that phone and trying to set appointments. And on those inbound telephone calls, we are trusting that the person answering the phone is following the process. We're also trusting that they're putting all their information into a CRM. We're trusting a lot of things. That telephone is the till box. Now, on the outbound phones, most law firms, from what I have seen, do not have a strategy to call unconverted clients every day. You know, most of them don't have a list, a prioritized list. They're not following up with them, making it easy. They're not trying, they don't have goals set so they can do it. That phone is the single best, the strongest, underutilized resource we have in law firms. Now, why do they struggle? They struggle simply because the people who are answering the phones, we're asking them to do too many things. We're asking them to create files. We're asking them to do some other type of work. They have other conversations. There's emails. And what they're primarily in the business of doing is avoiding pain. And so when somebody else is demanding their attention, remember that urgent and important, you know, the box in the Eisenhower chart? Well, answering that telephone sometimes doesn't seem to be as urgent, but Lord knows it's important, because if you cut off the telephones, there aren't too many of us are law firms that would survive. So my challenge to everybody here is that when you are building your system, a lot of you all have a CRM, a lot of you all have a case management system, right? PracticePanther is an excellent case management system. I've done a ton of research on them, tested many. It's built very well, especially since I have a software company as well. I understand some of these, and so I put my money on PracticePanther. It's part of the reason why I have this conversation, because I have a good relationship with them, because I respect them. But when we're putting together that system, we've got to identify those blind spots. Those blind spots, I think like Muhammad Ali said, it's the punch you don't see coming that's going to knock you out. And right now, I bet every single person who's listening to this or watching this later, you all are working really, really, really hard to do well financially in your firms. And as hard as you're pushing, there's probably one of the biggest questions that, in your minds are like, I'm pushing this hard. Why are my results not better? And the truth is that at times people are pushing against you. And the phones, it's human nature. It's not the people that you have on your phones that are bad. Human nature says that they are going to skip steps. And that's actually the very first software that I built. And I'm not trying to sell it right now. We're not taking on any type of clients, but I'm just stressing the importance. When you build a system, we better not forget the phones. Okay. All right. And, you're welcome to follow me. I'll send you additional resources in terms of how to fix that. But at the end of the day, there's got to be accountability in the phones. Okay, so we go on to the next slide, please. Now, the point on the phones that I want to bring up here is that in the red box you have right here, this is, if you take a serious perspective on your phones, these are very typical results. Most leads, a lot of leads that come from into a law firm are not recorded into CRMs because it requires manual entry, especially if it's over the telephone. The lowest I've ever seen of missed leads in terms of studying the hundreds of law firms that we've had and we actually measured their results was 4%. Sometimes it's 33%, sometimes it's 60% of the leads are never captured. So I increased this number, it start with 100 leads a month, and I increased that lead by 4%. Now, the quality of the lead, people who are actually calling that are able to hire you, that's a qualified lead. Our goal is to basically continue to increase this pipeline. This is a pipeline, these sets of numbers. I'm not going to basically, the increase on this slide, the increase, it stays at 75 because I'm going to keep this really simple. On the set rates, if somebody is handling the telephone call the way they're supposed to, and they're following the steps, even if you don't engage better, if they follow a process, 6% increase, very typical, very conservative measure. This shows, believe it or not, that telephone, when you're on the telephone, you are not selling a consult, you are selling to hire. And the more certain and professional you are on that phone, the more likely they are to show up and the more likely they are to hire. So both of these 6% increases next to set appointments and show appointments and hire appointments are entirely consistent to the telephone. And based on our data, I have concluded, this is my theory, that the vast majority of people who hire your firm decide to hire before they even show up. We tend to think that we do it all in the consult room or the Zoom room, and that's not what the data has shown us. which really emphasizes why the phones are so powerful, and we should take them serious. So based on multiplying this 4, 6, 6 numbers right here, you can literally grow your firm by 33% by owning your phones. And you know, there aren't too many things that you can fix one lever that will maintain that. Now, you know, owning your phones is an ongoing process. You just don't do it once. But once you establish a process and we inspect and we do that, you know, remember, we're thinking system, we're building a system. And so this is a component that most people do not have included in their system. Thank you, Nina. We'll go to the next one, please. Now, if we were to basically survey all the lawyers that we have here right now, the vast majority of lawyers, if we said, what's your biggest challenge in terms of client generation, they would say, I need more leads. It's, you know, when I'm actually working on software, we actually go back and we, you know, we look at SEMrush and we see what the search terms are. And overwhelmingly, that's what lawyers are looking for. And the truth is that you may not need to be searching for more leads. You may, your ad budget, whatever you're choosing to spend, may be 100% on point. And instead of trying to find the magic lead source that's going to make everything go away, next slide, please. What we recommend, and a lot of people do, is that we want to make sure that we are tracking those specific lead sources. Now I'm going to go a little bit deeper on this. If you don't track your lead sources or where your referrals are coming from, I highly recommend doing it. And if you're already tracking your lead sources right now through a product like CallRail or Call Tracking Metrics or one of these other lead attribution softwares, the money comes down to, and you have to divide a threshold in terms of what's worth your dollar bill. Because marketing, when you're investing in marketing, it's much like the stock market. You're trying to turn a $1 bill into a $3 bill, a $5 bill, or a $10 bill. And too often when we're basically running marketing, we don't have a cutoff. And so everybody here should have a cutoff. You know, bankruptcy firms, for example, are kind of infamous for having being able to tolerate lower ROI. Bankruptcy is very competitive. Some other practice areas like family law and even immigration, I can speak for myself. It's common to get 5 to 10 to 1 ROI. But you've got to evaluate those numbers on a monthly basis and reallocate your income. Double down on what's working, get rid of what's not. And there's, you know, in these numbers, I will say these 5 numbers, the lead, the qualified, set, show, and hire, it will in time become a Rosetta Stone for you. It will start to tell you where the issues are in your system or your team. So remember, like on here, you know, in the red box, the neat thing that little red box is, that becomes, those are the new goals, where our goals are no longer 100 leads, they're 110. So this is the GPS. Remember I said beforehand, the perspective stage, it was all about knowing where you are, where you wanted to go, and what you're really doing, what you're really building here. Because you don't want more clients tomorrow. You want more clients indefinitely, right? That's how the peace of mind comes. That's where the freedom comes from. So, you know, I haven't practiced in a few years. The last 4+ years, although I have a law firm, it runs completely without me. I literally get to study other law firms, and it's challenging. The biggest challenge, lawyers are very intelligent. They've gone a very long way, but we are wired to look for problems. And the goal comes down to, is we almost had to retrain our brain to say, all right, where's the opportunity here? How can I look at this and consistently remind me what the goal is? Let me invest my resources in bridging that gap, okay? So on the marketing game, you know, there comes a time where you really should be testing. But at the very minimum, when you're creating that system, you've got to have a routine process where you're evaluating the results in your marketing and we're making monthly changes. Please don't wait too long, because you talk about missed opportunity. We're talking about exceptionally expensive lessons here if you do not track and make those changes. All right. Sorry for the lecturing kind of point. I'm trying to kind of break some patterns here. I'm trying to get into some inside of y'all's heads. I'm not asking for anything in return. I wish somebody would have this conversation with me, you know, 11 years ago. Because it was a very painful journey, to be honest, much more painful than it needed to be. But I'm exceptionally thankful for the people who have shared this information with me and the other lessons so that we could kind of bridge this gap. All right. Now here comes, we're starting to get close to the fun part. Now, the stage 3 is leverage. It's how do we basically get, at the end of the day, leverage is we've got to get a lot better at what we're doing, get a lot more bang for the buck in everything. The connecting the dots is kind of almost like this is the bridge between the system and how you truly get leverage. And so I really highly recommend on the leverage stage, I don't normally cover this content. So in the next video, I recommend y'all watch and engage with us and ask us questions. But in the connect the dots stage is that once you stack your numbers together, the goal is to find the 80-20s, to find the low-hanging fruit. There's always a lot, there's always too many things for you to do. And so it's that paralysis, especially we as lawyers, because we're finding all the details and the nuances, we've got to make it really simple. If we had to pick one thing to work on, what would it be that we're going to get the greatest economic benefit or at least return on our investment for our time and energy? And so that connecting the dots, and I'm going to give you just kind of a simple, if those of you all are saying, all right, Bert, this stuff sounds great. This is a lot that's coming at me. I'm going to give you one nugget that's going to be actionable right now. When you connect the dots and you're identifying which one of the 5 steps that you're going to try to improve, right? Your lead, your qualifieds, your set, your shows, your hires. And I indicated beforehand, everybody just wants to improve the number of leads. They want more leads, more leads. I'm going to tell you today, start at the other end. Start at the hires. What I want you to do is I recommend that you go back and let's pull the people for the last month or maybe even 2 months if you're ambitious. Let's pull everybody who said no. Let's get on that phone and let's go ahead and set a schedule how we're calling them every single day. And anybody who says no, let's identify what's their objection. Is the issue that they don't have money? Is that they don't have time? But that weapon, right, that outbound telephone call, these people are this close from hiring. Identify what the issue is. Give them certainty that they're going to do it. If you make that a process, not just for now, indefinitely, you probably will have a 30 to 50% increase in revenues anyways. So this, when I say own your phones and how powerful, take it right now. You don't have to have fancy software. Get a list of all the people. If you're not keeping them in a CRM, go back through your calendar and pull that list. Would it be worth tens of thousands of dollars for you to do that? Most people would say yes. And what we do is we're looking for the next greatest magic pill or something else. So if we do all 3 of these particular points, right? If we are looking for the blind spots and we're trying to plug that hole. Number 2, we're making sure that we're marketing better. We're being smart about our marketing. And number 3, we're not trying to fix everything at one time, right? We're trying to find the lowest hanging fruit and get traction. And we just kind of build up that confidence, that momentum. But in those 3 things, it's going to trigger something else for you. It's going to trigger a higher level challenge if you don't already have this. And that's going to be how you're going to take care of the cases. Right? Congratulations. You've been successful. If you apply this stuff, if you take it and you pay attention more to your phones, if you call these outbound people, if you double down on the marketing, you are going to improve. And that's part of the reason why PracticePanther, I became kind of, attracted by PracticePanther because the amount of reporting, how intuitive, I didn't get any pushback on my team. And so moving forward, right? Moving forward in terms of us building this machine, building this pipeline, one aspect of us, we have to figure out how we get better and better and better at attracting clients and attracting leads and converting them to clients. And the other hand is we have to get better at how we turn these clients into happy referrals. Okay, now I'm going to leave it to you all in terms of how you can make them referral sources, right? And Nina is going to talk to you about a lot of the functionality, how PracticePanther basically helps you in that. But you have to do both at the same time, unfortunately. Now I'm telling you to focus on one thing from a sales perspective or how we generate more clients. Focus on that one thing. But you're also probably wearing a lawyer hat and you're practicing law anyways. So what I'm asking you to do from a software perspective or a systems perspective in terms of taking care of cases, you're already doing. I just want you to think about not just making pain go away, but how do we basically get to the core issue and put you in a better situation? Because there are a lot of things that are going on right now. There are a lot of things going on, and we have to basically just prioritize and take those initial steps. So I think, Nina, if you would go to the next slide, I believe. Wonderful. So, but yeah, in terms of, but that connection, I will say one last point in terms of with PracticePanther. I'm talking about the phones. Obviously, PracticePanther, they have an opportunity, and she's going to discuss it in detail, building the discipline of capturing information from the phones and putting it into a system is really, it can change everything. It can change everything. So yeah, I'm sorry, Nina. I know I go on a roll. I'm really passionate about this stuff. I believe it, and and I look forward to hearing what you're going to say.
Yeah, Bert, I mean, just thank you for, vouching for PracticePanther. And I know you've been a longtime customer, and it's just so great to hear how it's really changed your day to day. Now you don't even manage any of these firms you haven't been practicing long the last 4 years. You're just have it completely on autoplay. So I just want to touch upon, we've been talking a lot about hires and finding those blind spots so your qualified leads aren't leaking out of that pipeline, right? But now you have a new problem. How are you going to get them to pay and make sure you get paid on time after they hire you? So you want it to be easy for your leads and clients to pay you. It's a fact that if you allow the option to be paid online, you're collecting faster and getting paid on time. We released a report and found that our customers who use e-payments on average collected their invoices just over 20% faster than firms that did not use any e-payments. And those same firms also increased their collections rate by just under 7%. So that just shows the power of online payments. Your clients want to pay you. They don't want that amount hanging over their head. They might be playing catch up on their inbox, or they're just dealing with a lot right now because of their situation. And in other cases, your leads might be coming to you knowing exactly what they need and know they want to talk to you about their problems. So with our built-in payments processor called Panther Payments, you can create multiple custom payment links. So this comes in handy to catch any potential clients visiting your website late at night when you're not online and you're not available to pick up any calls, right? So having a payment button on your website can move the process along and get you closer to working on their case. At this point, you've optimized your marketing tactics, you're allocating your resources on a certain referral partner or on advertisements. These are at no extra cost, right? So the simple act of adding a payment button on your website, you're locking in those clients that would have possibly just left if they didn't have the option to schedule that initial call and pay. So the tip is to set up custom payment links, either with a preset amount or keep the amount blank, and add the hyperlink wherever you want, be it your website or your email signature or anywhere else that you can add a hyperlink. And you'll essentially get paid in your sleep, and they don't even have to be a client in the system for you to get paid. You don't need to create an invoice or a retainer request. You can go straight to getting paid for that initial consultation. And now your clients, when they become clients, always know that they can pay you from multiple spots. And we all have the challenge of information gathering. You need to learn more about your leads in order to see if they're even a good fit for your firm. And if they are, you need to learn more about them and their case. So after any initial calls, you need to send over documents and really just take a quick mental note of all the types of documents you have to send through to your clients and your leads. You don't want your client to have to repeat the same story to everyone they meet at your firm. So like Bert said, using a CRM is crucial. And just make it even easier for your firm by taking that information and logging it in your CRM to automatically generate documents with our document templates feature. You can use common merge fields that are already pre-populated in PracticePanther, or create custom fields to create a template for documents that your firm needs. Just include the merge fields in your Word document or PDF and upload it into the system. The template will pull the information from the context profile and matter automatically. So creating a customized document for your client just takes a couple of clicks. You can even include a custom field to insert that payment link in the document so your client can pay and review the files all in one go. This not only makes a consistent experience and a smooth transition for all of your clients, but it also frees up time for your team so they don't have to mess with formatting on Word documents and PDFs. Once these templates are set up, it's all available to them at any time to generate a new version for the next client. And it's all formatted with your firm's branding and your firm's logo. And I touched on this in a previous session, but I think it's just such a powerful tool. And I want you to understand how really customizable it is to make it your own. So we have a tagging ability in PracticePanther. There's no wrong or right way to use them. And you can really think of them as custom categories that you assign on a contact or on activities or on matters. So last time I went over how you can use tags to see the ROI of your marketing campaign and the sources that your leads come from, be it referrals or social media or ads. And the real beauty of using tags consistently is that you'll then be able to create a custom report in PracticePanther and dive into that data. I highly recommend you tag your leads by their marketing sources and if they became a client or not. So that way you can measure and track which sources give you the most qualified leads. And another layer you should tack on here is what stage are they on in your client generation pipeline? Did they get a call? Did you follow up? Did they set an appointment? Did they show? Did they hire? Tracking these can really help you keep a pulse on the health of your outreach funnel, just directly in PracticePanther where you're keeping everything else related to the case. And if you start using tags consistently and you run a report, you can see, okay, I didn't get any qualified leads from my Google ads in the last month or 2 months, but the majority might have been coming from my Facebook ads. So I'll see this in the report. I can move my budget based on this data that I have from Google over to my Facebook ads so that I can get more of those qualified potential customers coming to my website and sending calls. This isn't costing you any more money. You're just taking the time to tag and track who's coming through. And you'll see the returns of your consistent tracking by landing more of these qualified clients. So by tracking and shifting your focus on your marketing campaigns to work for you, you're just showing up more frequently where your qualified leads are. And the level of detail that you want to extract out of the platform is really up to you. And I just want to really highlight how customizable and flexible it is for your firm.
Yeah, if I could throw something in here, Nina.
Yeah.
I did a brain dump on everybody, and when it comes to software, people, sometimes we try to gloss over it. I think the big kind of takeaways here on the software side is, at least a lesson that I've learned, is that you have to be on the right foundation. Nothing's worse than when you're building on a software and you realize you get to the point you realize that you've outgrown a software. Starting all over, it is not what people want to do. So that was part of the reason why we went this direction with PracticePanther. So, but from a standpoint in terms of kind of also a lot of the other feedback, I think we just have to take first steps. What's the next thing I could do that would probably put me in a better position to kind of build this pipeline, to be more successful, to kind of have this element of freedom, right? So the perspective, and then we have the system stage. So we're at the system stage, at least that's what I was talking about. And so, like I said, your ability to generate clients and your ability to take care of them go hand in hand. It's, as long as you're moving in that direction, that's the goal. Not perfection, not absolute control. It's just progress. And as long as we have progress and we know we can see ourselves improving, generally the momentum comes and it kind of takes over. So I just wanted to kind of put it out there as a context. I mean, sometimes people think, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? Well, make sure that, you can go to my website and at least4eyes.com, and you can put in your numbers and come up with some new GPS coordinates for yourself, right? We have PracticePanther right here, depending on the platform you're on. If you don't feel like it's really set up to give you the tools necessary to be successful, kind of moving forward, having that foundation, well, then you probably, I'm sure Nina will give you feedback there. But we have to make decisions that are in alignment with our goals. And that's why, no one just ends up, scaling themselves out of a job and kind of really having that freedom, right? Kind of having what is it that you want that, really don't have to ask permission for many of other things unless you're married, right? So I think that, that should be the goal if it's not your goal, because if you say it's not your goal, just ignore me, all right? I have nothing to offer, but yeah, guys, but from the standpoint in terms of, keep on making progress, I guess it's just my recommendation to make sure that we think first we got to build on solid ground. Let's make sure we have the right strategy, and let's be clear on where we're at and where we're going.
Yeah, and I just want to add, no matter your comfort level with technology, everyone learns a new system or technology differently. So we offer articles that you can read or video tutorials for our visual learners. And we also offer one-on-one free training sessions that you can book in 30-minute or 60-minute increments. So you could have all your questions answered on the spot, and we could even walk through some of the stuff and set it up with you.
Yeah, that's I think that was probably the very first thing that kind of impressed me about PracticePanther is that the number one, I could have the chat box, I could ask questions while we're doing stuff, and I was getting real time kind of answers, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I don't have to go Google search for my own stuff. There was actually somebody who was actually helping me. So I just want to kind of put that out there. So and the guys have been, I say guys and I should say ladies as well, right, Nina? But it's important who you partner with if they're there to back you up. We all know that you buy something on the dream and then you come back and you find out, wait a minute, this is all there is. I haven't experienced that with PracticePanther. But that being said, I would love to, if I could, just kind of give the next meeting that we're going to talk about is the leverage stage. I'm just going to give you a little bit peek in terms of what we're going to talk about. Marketing guru. So at some point, all of us in our practices, very few people, at least I haven't met any, who are able to scale themselves out of a job or truly have something to sell, even if it's a law firm, without having to invest in client generation, invest in marketing. And becoming a marketing guru, in my perspective, instead of just saying, all right, this looks good, this looks good, let me just throw money at it, comes down to your ability to get specific with how do I hit my number of leads with the marketing lead sources I have. Or we in that example beforehand, I had 100 leads. We need to get 110. All right. How do we hit the 110? So there's a big difference in when you're making decisions on marketing, when you're saying, I hope this works, and saying, all right, we'll see if I get the 110. If not, I'm testing something else. The second component is the staffing kind of profit kind of component. At the end of the day, what this really kind of comes down to is you've got to have a strategy for how you build up your team for your ability to convert, especially in your absence. And there's got to be a process we can identify the A players from the C players. And I would offer you have no room on your team for a C player. B players can become A players, but somebody who's willing to settle for a C is going to cause you problems. And so there's got to be a way to do that. And you have to ultimately in life, and I'm going to tell you something, I hope you agree. We get what we tolerate, right? So the more we raise our standards, the better the results are going to be. And so C players are C players because we allow them to be C players. So, but we're going to get into more of that in the next conversation. And the last one, automation is this really big, idea and software. And we all think about, oh, automation, it'll make this easier. Well, automating success is when you can take a process, like let's say how you make decisions on marketing and how you basically measure and manage your team. And you can teach somebody else to do it on your team and they can do it for you. That process, this evolution of making sure you're focused on the right things, making sure you have a solid foundation underneath you, and making better decisions than your competition when it comes to marketing, building an A team, right? That's basically everybody on your team is an A player. And then the ability to show somebody how it's done. And you can look over their shoulder and you can see from metrics how it's done, but then you have your freedom. If you have to step back in. But this isn't some magic pill that you're going to get. No, you're going to earn it by learning how to replicate your marketing, how to replicate your team building and accountability. And now would have somebody else basically look at that and see if they can coach and help, and then allow you to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So that's the fun stage. The leverage stage is the fun. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to feel good about building that system. But I promise you, when you're at that leverage stage, it all pays off.
And that's the wrap for this session. I mean, we've covered a lot of really good nuggets here, but I just want to say thanks to Bert for just spilling that knowledge for us and sharing his know-how. But if you're interested in getting started with PracticePanther, you can get a custom demo at practicepanther.com/demo, or connect with Bert and access some materials on his website at 4eyes.com. And to everyone who's joined today, we'll be sure to let you know when the third session is. and make sure that you have the whole series of takeaways to apply to your firm. And Bert, is there anything that you want to shout out here? I think we have time for one question, but before that,
no, look, I mean, I think that, look, a lot of times we tell ourselves things are hard because based on our skill set or experience, we're just frustrated. And I'm telling you what, you're one insight away from breaking through the next level. I know it's hard, but it's also easy. And lawyers, we have to train our brains not to see things as lawyers, but to see ourselves as entrepreneurs, opportunists. And that shift right there, that perspective stage, and saying, well, that's not that hard. All I have to do is move these 5 numbers, measure these 5 numbers. It really is that simple. And now you're utilizing your problem solving, instincts and skills to generate additional revenue and clients, as compared to just solving problems in clients' cases. Let's go ahead and give you some more freedom. Let's make sure you're using your resources in a way that benefits you and your family.
And you always say you can't measure what you don't track, and you can't change what you don't measure. And I think that just summarizes the whole pillar concept here. And it's so great to get it broken down into the actionable steps.
Well, thank you. So yeah, so do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have time for one question. I think this one's great for you. What can I do to get immediate traction? What's the first thing I should do?
Yeah, so okay. From a standpoint of, I would say, I offered the feedback beforehand in terms of going through and identifying the people for the last 30 days or 60 days who haven't hired. That would be a fantastic way of generating revenue. But even before that, if you're thinking right now, that's a tactic, right? So we always start with strategy before tactics. And so from the strategy right now is, how are you going to basically run your firm? Are you going to make a decision to, all right, I'm going to run them based on a number, or am I going to continue to try to do this by gut? And the framework that I'm offering from numbers is a foundation. Like PracticePanther is a foundation when it comes to practice management software. This framework, these 5 numbers, these pipeline numbers that I'm offering you, if you go ahead and you just buy into that, what does that mean? What does that mean for me? How can I get these numbers? You will change things indefinitely. Now, if you need to make money right now, if that's your thing, get your list of your unconverted people and let's get on the phones.
All right. I think that's a really good point to start from the end of that funnel and work your way up towards the top of the funnel. Like, I think that's a really easy way to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the direct opposite of what most people do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think we're at time now. And I just want to say thank you, Bert, for joining me here for this session. Do you have any closing words?
No, I just want to say thanks everybody for joining in, and you feel free to go in there and you can ask us questions, but hey, this is fun and we want to see everybody succeed. Seeing other people succeed is almost as much fun as feeling success for yourself, but it is a lot of fun. And so I hope if anything triggers you to do something different or to open a door for you, then we've succeeded for today.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you everyone for joining. We'll be in touch with this recording of the session and for the next installment of the series. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.